Hi everyone, and welcome back to this week's episode of B2B NAV. I think this one will be a relatively quick episode to signpost it, but more to talk around awards and commendations and recognition based on the fact that we had a pretty good week last week here at BDB, being recognised by Adweek as one of their 100 fastest growing global agencies. And that was on top of the Queen's Award that we had earlier this year for our services to export. And then on a more national local basis, we were in the top 50 kind of PR agencies, coming in at number 2. So an exciting time for the agency to get that kind of recognition, but it prompted quite an interesting debate internally here around the credibility of awards, I suppose, to start with. So we have a lot of clients that look for awards and look for that recognition as well. What's your take on that as a starting point?
Well, I guess in general, I don't think we really go out looking for awards, do we?
No, not particularly.
Not very often.
No.
From a client point of view, I'd say, or at least my experience of coming from client side, everybody says I've got awards, so it ends up not meaning that much to me in general. I think the only time I was saying before we recorded that I've used them is just when I didn't have a clue where to start looking for an agency. It's back in my hospitality days, so I was looking for an agency that built websites in hospitality. I just looked at relevant awards as a place to get a bit of a shortlist together. Yeah. But everybody's touting that they've got awards, and it just starts being meaningless. Especially because you don't know. Are you
looking for like badges on a website though, in terms of when you're looking for those awards? Are you just, or do you actually look into the credibility of the awards, if you know what I mean? Because there are so many out there these days.
No, I don't think you do. I don't think. Well, I really doubt many people do. It's a bit like having a client logo on your website as well, and things like that. I don't think people generally go deeper into them. They just like to see they're there. It's a little bit of social proof, like having a testimonial. You have no way of knowing if it's actually a real quote or not, but it just reassures you, hopefully, that somebody else has said this company that you're looking to work with is good too.
For me, it comes down to more of a transparency point, I think, because if a client says to me, "Oh, you're not with the, I don't know, PRCA, or you're not got such an accreditation or whatever," it's that appreciation of knowing, well, I can get it by paying 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, whatever the number is per year that they charge for these things. And then I'd much rather say to a client, no, we don't chase down awards in every single category. We stand by the quality of the work that we do, the case studies, the client work that we do, and the company that we keep within our clients as well. So I suppose we had a bit of a step change here at BDB in the last few years, and we put a halt on, or I did put a halt on all award submissions probably for the last 3 or 4 years, while we realigned exactly where we wanted to be. We worked on our own brand and our own proposition before deciding the kind of recognition we want. So we were very clear that we wanted to try and achieve the Queen's Award for Enterprise, because that supported our international credentials. And the same with Adweek in a way, also giving us more presence and profile within the US market, but also with a very reputable and market-leading publication. And I think for clients, particularly if you are thinking around awards or you're thinking around that kind of recognition, it's having a clear objective behind them, rather than just wanting another logo or another trophy for your cabinet in reception or whatever it may be. But I suppose the Adweek one was an interesting one for us because obviously it's recognition of being fastest growing. And they have various criteria which I could read aloud here, but one of them, I think you've got to be trading for more than 3 years, and you've got to have over a certain amount of revenue to even just get into the to be considered for it. But obviously some of the percentage growths in revenue were pretty extreme on the list. So I think we came in at 66. I'm looking around, is that right? I think it was something like that, number 66. Which for me the number was kind of irrelevant. It was more being on the list that I thought gave us that kind of recognition. But then you look at the people at number 1 spot, and they've got 8,000% growth over the last 3 years, and that made me think about it again of speed's one aspect of it, but also kind of direction. So I'm not going to get into science and velocity and that kind of thing, but that's probably what we're talking about here, that are you going in the right direction as well alongside things. And I think that's quite relevant to clients and client work as well.
I think it's a bit different, isn't it? If you're like a venture capitalist, you're going to be interested in speed of growth and how fast can you get that return on any investment you make. If you're a client looking to work with an agency, obviously this can be an indicator of how good the work is, how much other companies are supporting them and choosing to work with them. So there's a little bit like, if there's a buzz going on over there about that agency, then we can be there too. But it's not indicative of the quality of work that they're doing.
Nope.
Possibly correlation, but definitely not a direct result of it.
And also it can be. I think the growth can be. It was interesting looking at some of the other agencies globally, because the bulk of them were in the US. And I think there was only 20 agencies, maybe outside of the US, of which we were one of sort of 2 or 3 in the UK. But for me, it was interesting looking at where the growth had come from. So for us, it's very much around organic growth of spend, increase in services that we sell, and more integrated services to clients. Whereas a lot of people on the list, it was linked to acquisitions, a lot of mergers, a lot of agencies had come together, which had obviously boosted the numbers considerably under one brand. But it is growth, obviously, of a sort, but it's not necessarily
kind of cheating, isn't it?
I think it felt like cheating on the list to me. It certainly did, yeah. So I suppose for me, it's, are you going in the right direction? It's probably more important. And can you look back on the last 12 months, 2 years, 3 years from where you were, and consider that you've made the great strides in that right direction? So revenue growth's cool, but it's, for me, it's more around the quality of the work that we continue to put out.
Yeah, and I think we're lucky in the relationships that we have with our clients, that they are very long-standing. And I've spoken to other agencies where they have a much higher rate of churn going on, and it means that it's not so much about growing a great relationship; it's just about making good margins on the the work that's coming through, and then moving on to the next one. Whereas I think we work with I don't know the tenure of our clients, but we work with many of our clients we've worked with since I started 5 years ago, and I know we've worked with them for much longer than that. And therefore we have that trust to talk to them about other services, other things that they could be doing, which I think is a really fantastic position for us to be in.
I think that probably links to the point of around we also feature with Adweek on the top 5 agencies over 20 years old, which I know they cut the list in that many different directions. It was kind of, I think me and you were laughing about it the other week in terms of how they'd analysed the list out. However, for me, that's more of a meaningful recognition. Probably the fact that we're not a pop-up agency, we're not an overnight success. We've not got something gimmicky or one product that we're selling in. The fact that BDB has been trading for over 30 years and continues to grow and evolve. And that's much more meaningful to me than being on any list, really, that we continue to invest in our people and our practices and our services and so on.
Well, it's easy to get, in my opinion, at least get stuck in your ways, isn't it? And be like, this is what we do, this is who we are, and we'll reach a point and then we'll plateau. I think hopefully this is proving that we're not that type of company, and we're moving in the right direction and continue to have new ideas, new innovations, work with new types of clients, work with clients in different ways. That means we are continuing to grow.
And I think for me it's another badge to put on our website and to market ourselves with, particularly kind of in the US market, to grow our presence there and continue to grow the profile of clients that we work with. But more than anything, it is nice sometimes to have a look back. You don't do that very often because it is so frantic in the pace of the agency world, and you think about the growth we have experienced over the last 3 years. And I suppose I'm echoing it back to client work here, that it's not an overnight success. So it's not a BDB, the fact it's been trading for 30 years, but it's also not an overnight success the last 4 years, 3 years, 2 years. Everything's been a hard slog. And I think sometimes linking it to clients in terms of speed and recognition of that, clients want things fast sometimes, and they want things as quick as they can get them. And I think that's something BDB's probably got a reputation for, the speed that we can turn things around at the right quality, importantly, so we don't do quick and dirty, so to speak.
Well, I'd like to think of it as it's not a case of that's going to be difficult, we're busy at the minute, we don't know if we can handle it. It's okay, the client has come in, they've got this request, how can we achieve that request? Can we achieve it? Obviously we have to be realistic, but I think we have that kind of how can we achieve it type of attitude, which helps us deliver on things that I think a lot of companies, not every company, but a lot of companies might just kind of say, no, we can't, we're too stretched at the moment, or we don't have a way to do that, so no, we can't do that work.
And what do you think forces the speed from a client side of things when they do want things ridiculously quickly sometimes? Do you think it's poor planning? Do you think it's the reactive nature of what they do, or?
I think it varies a lot from company to company, and case to case. I think there's sometimes that element of we might have talked about something for a long period of time, but suddenly a board member or a director or somebody has said, let's do it, and now we need it now. Sometimes it's to align with obviously a business goal. We've got a product launch coming up, and we hadn't thought about all the marketing campaign that would need to go along with it until now, when we've just been given our budget, for example, 2 months before, and you've got this urgent level of planning to do all of a sudden. But so I think it does vary a lot from case to case, but it often is urgent.
I think it is. It's just interesting, I think, when you tie that speed point of view around you get agencies that do things ridiculously quickly, but the quality won't be there. And I think hopefully that's where BDB's got the kind of reputation we've got for being able to do it quick, but in a considered way, as you say, kind of solutions focused.
From my point of view, we've got a lot of people that care,
yeah.
and I think that above anything results in a good outcome for campaigns or projects or whatever it is we're working on. Because if people care, they'll put the time that is needed in to get something done correctly. Yeah. If we get something in from a designer, for example, and we don't think it's quite right, but it's urgent, we won't say it's urgent, let's just go with it. It's no, we need to fix this before the client's seeing it. And there's been, obviously it's not something that happens all the time, but there's been at least a couple of times while I've worked here where we've said we wanted to send it you today, but we can't because we're not happy with it. Yeah. So we're going to send it you in 2 days' time instead. Yeah. When we've addressed it and made sure it's to the level that we're happy to share it with you. And
a nice link there in terms of people that care. Awards and recognition, obviously we spoke about it from a client perspective mainly so far, so in the sense of do clients look for it, is it part of their qualification criteria when looking for agencies to work with and so on. How big a part do you think the awards and the recognition play in an employer brand these days? So thinking around most clients we're speaking to, most businesses we know and liaise with are talking about how important the ability to attract and retain the very best talent is. Do awards and recognition play a part in that, do you think, at a personal level? Or
I don't think there's many people that would say they wouldn't like to win an award, but I don't think that's the only form of recognition. At least from my point of view, I don't personally look to win an award. But I think there's lots of different ways to be recognised, and it's it can be just a manager or a colleague or just other people saying great job or the client saying great job on something. That's a great level of recognition that is, to be honest, to me more meaningful than a group of strangers looking at your work without having much context around it saying you've done a great job.
Yeah, no, it's a genuinely interesting point because obviously when it's your business, you are proud last week to get the recognition. I was proud to see us on the international stage. And you sort of sit there in the evening, particularly when you're in lockdown and you're by yourself, thinking, I wonder if the team feel proud. But you hope they do, but then you don't know if it actually holds that much relevance.
But certainly when I've been, job hunting in the past, not recently, then I'd never look for a company that's won awards. I wouldn't go like, who's won awards? Or if I'm looking at a particular company, what awards have they won? It's if they were there, I'm sure I'd go, that's nice, they've won awards. But certainly nothing I'd go out the way to find, because again, there's lots of different forms of that social proof to say a company's good. As an employee, you might be looking at a site like Glassdoor or seeing what employees are doing on social media or seeing what else is going on around the company. There's lots of different ways to judge whether a company's the kind of company you want to work for, and awards might play a part in it. But
for anyone not familiar with Glassdoor, do you want to explain what that is? Because I only learned about this in the last couple of years, but in the sense of it's just an interesting point.
Glassdoor is a site where employees can go and, if I remember correctly, anonymously, basically review their employer. So they can leave a review about what it's like to work at the company, how they're treated, I believe what their salary is for their role and things like that as well. So it to be honest, it's just a way to understand what a company is really like, because again, we can go and put the nicest kind of veneer on a company and say it's great to work at, but you don't really find out what a company's like to work at until you start working there, and you see what it's like when there's a high pressure day, or you see what it's like when there's a slow day, or you see how they start handling things when business gets tough. And sites like Glassdoor, I guess, are there to help you understand that before you've made a decision to work somewhere.
There's a huge risk with that, though, getting anonymous keyboard warriors, isn't there, who just get a bit lively. There's no kind of qualification. You can just post on it, can't you, freely? I
believe so. But I think it's just one of the person looking at it needs to treat it like any other online review. And if you told me right now that I've done a terrible job and that a particular project's not going to work or whatever it might be, then could I go and post on there and be disgruntled and give my negative review? Sure. But that's the same if you look at anything, you look at any piece of, amazing technology. For example, I've just bought a coffee machine. It's got great reviews, but there will be lots of one-star reviews from the people that got unlucky and theirs broke after a day or whatever it might be.
We've seen it more and more with social media, like the TripAdvisor and the restaurant reviews as well with people. And I love the responses from the various outfits as well, and businesses and brands these days.
They can only be an indicator. Obviously, your own personal experience can't be dictated to you by somebody else's opinion.
Okay. Well, thanks very much. I think that's probably about it on that topic. Just have a quick chat around our recognition as one of the 100 fastest growing global agencies by Adweek. For me, just a quick note, just to say thank you to our team here at BDB. So if any of you are listening, thank you for all your hard work and your dedication and your loyalty. We certainly couldn't achieve the growth that we have done and this kind of recognition without you guys. And also thanks to our clients as well. The clients provide us with fantastic opportunities with the businesses and brands that we work with for our guys to really flex their intellectual creativity and grow as marketeers as well. So thanks very much on that front. And we'll be back with you next week. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks.
Cheers.